The death of a Hong Kong student is fueling anger ahead of more protests scheduled for the weekend. Chow Tso Lok suffered a brain injury after falling early Monday as police dispersed the crowd he was in. Now, it is the first confirmed death resulting directly from a clash between authorities and demonstrators. Joining us now from Hong Kong is Karen Leigh, our Bloomberg China government editor. Karen, a sad death. How does this change protests?
Well, you know, the thing that people are the most concerned about here is how this could inflame protests that had in recent weeks dropped off a bit. They've gotten smaller than we'd seen earlier in the summer, and people are worried that this is going to recharge that kind of activity. We're already seeing people come out earlier in the day Friday. They're coming out now as we speak a few blocks from here. And there are already protests that have been planned throughout the city over the weekend. And those are expected to potentially be a bit bigger now, maybe more chaotic, with people venting some of that anger at police. And that's been one of the main themes of protests over the past couple of months, is this anger toward police and this distrust of the government.
So what happens, Karen? How does this end? Are we going to see a replacement? What do the protesters still want now?
Well, you know, the thing that we're looking at is district elections, which are coming up in the next few weeks on November 24th. And those are something that, you know, they're going to be a lot more important this year. They come after 5 months of protests, and the opposition is going to be looking to take back as much power as they can during those elections. And whether this is going to inflame protests and inflame violence where those elections are delayed or canceled or jeopardized in any way. So that's something that we're going to be watching over the weekend, and really just looking at whether this is going to be something that's going to make people come out in greater numbers than they have been.
I'm glad you bring that up, Karen. That's right where I wanted to go. Is it possible to have democracy in Hong Kong right now, or is it so supercharged into this weekend that you push aside that Hong Kong distinction?
You know, that's been one of the major questions. I think what people are going to be looking at is whether or not these protests sustain. It's hard to answer that question. But whether people are motivated enough and angry enough to still want to come out and fight for that is going to be what people look at, not just this weekend and not just over the elections, but as we head toward the end of the year, and really looking at where these protests go and how long they can sustain. And do we get into this pattern where they dwindle a bit and then there's something that inflames them, or whether they peter out? That's the big question here, and that's something that could play out over the next couple of months.